Your eyes do not deceive you. Yes, we are live on Boom Broadcasting for Out of Pocket with Michael Davis, starting our week off, week number 8 for Boom Broadcasting. Yes, this Out of Pocket's been going for 2 years, and without further ado, we got our App State crew here in the studio. We got Aaron from Schneider's Cafe. We got Carsen from the debuting Lombardi party that debuts this Wednesday. And I threw a little video package together. So without further ado, let's get started. It is time to get out of pocket. I'm your host, Michael Davis, again joined by Aaron from Schneider's Cafe, joined by Carsen from the debuting Lombardi party. It is a Green Bay Packers podcast, and so I'll let him talk about the Packers on Wednesday at 6 p.m. But right now, what we have for you is some NFL preseason talk, and I wanted to start out by talking about one of the coolest plays you'll ever see in a preseason game. Patrick Mahomes pulls off a behind-the-back pass, and this was fascinating. I wanted to pull this up for your viewing pleasure if you're watching us on the Boom Broadcasting YouTube channel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, share my screen here real quick, and we're going to watch this play on the very good YouTube channel brought to you by NFL. We don't own any rights to this video, but wanted to share this experience with you guys.
A week ago when they were just 2 for 13 on third down. Mahomes keeps it, goes behind the back. Kelsey's got it for the first down. How do you like that?
As Kelsey for the first down. Now all of a sudden it's another thing for defenses to worry about.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of football games.
And there you go. That was the craziest kind of play I've ever seen in the preseason, guys. And by the way, if you are watching us live, you can comment on the YouTube channel and get a shout out while we're live on air, mouthing off with Mike saying magic. And he's not talking about the Orlando Magic. He said, ooh, video clips, fancy pants. Mike stepped up his game with the nightcap and, throwing these overlays on. And I was like, you know what? I want to do that. I want to step up the game. I want to get a video clip on Out of Pocket today. And it was quite the play for Patrick Mahomes. But apparently, and I was reading, Andy Reid wanted this done in the Super Bowl. And Patrick Mahomes was like, no, I'm vetoing that. I'm not doing it in the Super Bowl. But my beef with this is, why do you waste it in the preseason when it doesn't matter and when teams can end up getting tape on you guys? So, man, I don't know if the preseason was the right time. Maybe the Super Bowl wasn't the right time. Maybe pull this off in the regular season or in the playoffs in general. Aaron, where do you lean on this issue?
Yeah, I would be inclined to agree that the Super Bowl is way too big of a moment to do something like that. Clearly he's capable of doing it, but in the Super Bowl is insane because even though he's Patrick Mahomes, he can do all the crazy stuff to risk. One play can make all the difference in a game like that, and to risk a Super Bowl to throw a behind the back pass is a little ridiculous. And I had seen a clip of him and Travis Kelce saying that wasn't planned. I don't know if that's them trying to be like, oh, this isn't something we're going to do to try and throw teams off. But, that sounds like it was unintentional, so they didn't even mean to do it.
Yeah, and Max bringing up a good point, something else to think about when you're playing the Kansas City Chiefs. Also, Aaron was on Out of Pocket last Monday with our good friend Chris saying it would have been better to introduce it in a close conference regular season game. maybe a Chiefs-Bills matchup, maybe a Chiefs-Ravens matchup. Mouthing off with Mike saying Philly special was a wild play to do in the Super Bowl. Thanks for reminding me. So, yeah, I mean, that's when you pull out those stops, when people think they've seen it all. When you think you have all the answers, you need to change the questions in the big moments. Carsen, you were shaking your head earlier. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think that both of you guys, or maybe not Aaron, but you guys are just insane. Like, it's a behind the back pass. There should never, ever be a situation, unless you're being sacked and just need to get the ball out, last second play, there should never be a situation where you should throw the ball behind your back, especially not in the Super Bowl. Like, just like Aaron said, one game will make or break, or one play will make or break you there. So, no, he definitely should not. Not even a regular season game. Preseason is the only place where I would ever be okay with, even if it works. Like, it reminds me of when Melo, not Carmelo, of course, LaMelo Ball. Yeah, LaMelo. I should not have said Melo. But when LaMelo was just shooting half-court shots in high school, like, even if you can make it, it's not a good shot. It's never a good shot. Like, you could shoot that in summer league, I guess, and nobody would care. But in a high stakes game, no, you don't do anything like that. Just play, because there's never any time when that will really give any advantage either. Like, just throw the ball normal. You're never getting any advantage when you do stuff like that.
Carson's out of pocket when his video freezes right after he says LaMelo Ball.
And to go to that, when you have Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, you don't need to pull out any tricks because he's already great as is. Like, with going back to what Mike had said about the Philly special, I feel like Philly needed to pull out something ridiculous like that to get the Super Bowl win, whereas the Chiefs can just play normally with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback and they'll be fine.
I think that's also the thing. Like, this is normal for Patrick Mahomes. Like, if there's any other quarterback, I would have been like, whoa. But Carsen, since it was Patrick Mahomes, like, right now, he's not the greatest of all time, but he's the greatest right now. Like, he can get away with this. I'd be totally okay with it.
I mean, I do agree with you there. I think he is the greatest quarterback ever, the greatest football player ever. I just don't think he has the longevity, but I think he will. But I mean, I'm still not really okay with this. And I'm getting worried that he's about to have like the Steph Curry effect on, or maybe I should say the James Harden effect on the NFL. Like, Steph Curry, James Harden, when those two like came on the scene and just were really shooting, like, I think Steph Curry has like really made the game a lot better of basketball. But like, you see kids now just like spinning and doing step back threes and like missing these terrible shots because when Steph Curry takes them, they're good shots. Like, I'm worried that that's where we're going to go with Patrick Mahomes, where everybody's doing things because Patrick Mahomes can do them. But just because Patrick Mahomes can do them does not mean that everybody can do them. Like, just like when Matthew Stafford was really the coiner of this, but just like when Patrick Mahomes threw that no-look pass last season, and then there were like 3 or 4 in the same season the other quarterbacks did, even though, like I said, Matthew Stafford coined that. But I don't like where this is going for the game of football if it does the same thing that happened to basketball, where one person does incredible things and everybody else tries to replicate it, even though they're not as incredible as that one person.
Now, that I will say this before I bring this up, that was a good take. Like, even though like I disagree just a little bit, it is something that you need to take into account, like how influential these players who are playing at elite levels are to the fundamentals and the techniques of the kids growing up and playing the sport. But I will say this, Chris probably had the greatest comment I've seen in quite some time. No offense to anyone else, but anytime somebody flashes an out-of-pocket take, I'm going to get this. Tom Brady dislikes this thing. Like, can we get this, like, just everywhere through broadcasting? mouthing off with Mike. Anytime he opens up his mouth, we can display this. Tom Brady dislikes this take. I mean, I want this everything. I want Shannon on quick hits on Wednesday mornings to have this flash up anytime he talks. Okay. I want this comment everywhere. Tom Brady dislikes this take by our good friend Chris. Elizabeth saying, if everyone jumped off the roof, should you? No, I wouldn't recommend.
Exactly.
It's not smart. Surprise, I, didn't break my ankle doing that. But what is even more impressive that this was the first time Patrick Mahomes, did this, and it was a completion. So as of now, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, and he's 100% on behind the back passes. Mouthing off with Mike saying, boo-hoo, Tom Brady won plenty of Super Bowls. He can cry into his millions. He's fine. Oh, man. Yeah, Tom Brady's only kryptonite was NFC East teams. Like, he lost to the Giants twice. He lost to the Eagles in their only Super Bowl win. It's going to take them a while to catch up to the Dallas Cowboys, even though they haven't won since the 90s. And the Dallas Cowboys ended the career of Tom Brady. So, America, you're welcome from America's team. Now, one thing I did want to bring up about America's team, I do Dan the Boys. That episode will drop tomorrow. We'll go more in depth about the previous preseason game. But I wanted to bring up something very important from that game. Brandon Aubrey kicked a 66-yard field goal, and apparently you can just try anything in preseason. Now, the reason I bring this up isn't about the Dallas Cowboys at all. What I want to bring up is, I play Madden, I don't want to go back to Madden. Like, I tried doing that from NCAA football 25 to playing last year's Madden. Dude, it feels like you went back 10 years. Like, it is so slow. It's so bad. Like, I used to play Madden into the ground, but I'm like, not anymore. But I would have a really good game with CD Lamb or, Dak Prescott or whoever I was playing with. And it'd be in the playoffs, and that wouldn't count towards a record, even though that's probably one of the more valuable games you'll ever play. Okay. Now, in preseason, you don't see a lot of records broken because people aren't playing the full game. And also, a lot of these guys won't make the 53-man roster. But in this instance, a 66-yard field goal is the same in preseason, regular season, postseason. So this got me thinking, guys. This got me thinking, should records count from the preseason and the postseason? Like, if you have a record, it should be documented no matter what kind of game it is. That's my take. Carsen, I don't believe I'm out of pocket for that.
I agree with you partially. I do think that those records should go down. Like Brandon Aubrey has the longest kick in a preseason game. I think that there needs to be a distinction between preseason, regular season, postseason, because each one matters more than the other. Postseason, there is way more pressure on you than there is the regular season. So, I don't think that postseason awards should go towards regular season awards. It's just like in basketball, Michael Jordan has the highest postseason scoring single game record ever. I think it's 61. That's pretty. We've had multiple 70 pieces last year, but the regular season and the postseason, they're not the same. They matter a lot differently. The game is played differently, not so much in the NFL as it is the NBA, but still there's a lot more pressure there. If there wasn't, then the Cowboys would they'd have a lot more Super Bowls than they do. I promise you that. If the regular season mattered just as much as the postseason, because they can make it through the regular season, but they can't make it through the postseason anymore, and that's because they're not the same. So no, records should not count. They should not all be within one thing. There should be preseason records, regular season records, postseason records. Keep them all separate because they're separate. They're not the same.
Now, I don't know if it was wise to let you have a Packers podcast, but as long as you talk about the Packers and not the Cowboys, I know how much, the Cowboys live rent-free in your head, Carson. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. Aaron, back me up here.
Yeah.
Like, a 66-yard field goal is a field goal.
It should definitely count towards something, but I'm inclined to agree with Carson, especially like the pressure factor. That is a huge deal when you're making a kick like that, like attempting a 66-yard field goal in a random preseason game that probably not a lot of people are going to remember other than the fact that you kicked a 66-yard field goal versus kicking like a 66-yard field goal in a high stakes regular season game, division rivalry with playoff implications, or even in a playoff game is night and day.
It's just sad that, Aaron's probably right. Like, we won't really remember like a 66-yard field goal. And, the record books will say Justin Tucker holds the record. Basden saying Happy Gilmore kicked a 66-foot field goal not but an hour ago. Really? I missed that. Can
you block him? That's one of my friends. Can we just block him from watching this?
I don't know. He's commenting, so he's I missed that. Happy Gilmore, right?
Yeah, let him engage. Let him engage.
Yeah, let him engage. Aaron, he's your friend. He's supporting you. Come on. I mean, we got the Carsonites. We need something for Aaron. What should we call Aaron's fans? Because he's getting more and more as we get closer to his podcast debut. Carson, you got any ideas for his fan name?
Something not as cool as the Carson, sure.
No, it'll come up organically.
Can't be as cool as the Carsonites, definitely. It's got to be something else.
It's got to be something else. He's saying he liked and subscribed. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, because like we're trying our best. Like, this is brand new. We're starting week 8 off right with Out of Pocket with these guys. I don't know if you went to App, but these were 3 App kids who had a dream of just, doing our own podcast, doing our own shows, talking about what we wanted to talk about, and we're doing that. So any likes, any subscribes, any watches, we got a lot of people watching right now live on Boom Broadcasting. So thank you. It doesn't go unnoticed. Chris suggesting Aaron's disciples, maybe. Elizabeth suggesting airheads. Can we
That's what
I wonder.
I like that one.
Can we replace the I with an A, like a double A with the airheads? Let me see if I can throw it up and see how it looks on air. Airheads. Boom. I could go for that.
It just makes me think of Aardvark. I don't know why. But the double A just makes me think of Aardvark for whatever reason.
The Aardvarks.
No.
Bazin saying airheads. Elizabeth saying airheads. AAR heads.
That's what it's got to be.
Oh, you know what that reminded me of right there? AARP. Oh, we got the Carsonites, we got the airheads, and then we'll figure out what I'm called eventually. Who knows when? But yeah, thank you guys for showing support to not only Carson and his Carsonites, but Aaron and his airheads. But one thing that is not very kind to do is talk about your former employer, your former management, or should you? I mean, maybe there will be a man behind the mic episode, talking about, some management styles in the past. But Tua Tagovailoa did not hold back when he was talking about Brian Flores. Brian Flores obviously was the head coach of the Miami Dolphins and Tua for a couple years. Obviously, Brian Flores is not there anymore. Brian Flores is actually coaching Stephon Gilmore, the newest Minnesota Viking, as Flores is the defensive coordinator for Minnesota now. But in interview with Dan Lebitard's show that aired today, Tua said that he began to believe he didn't belong as an NFL quarterback under Brian Flores, and McDaniel has changed his own self-perception. And the entire article is on ESPN.com. That's where I read about this because I was working earlier today. But there was a specific quote that I wanted to bring up and post to you guys. Tua saying, "You could be the president of the United States. You have a terrible person telling you things that you don't want to hear or probably shouldn't be hearing. You're going to start believing that about yourself." And so that's what sort of ended up happening. Now, if this was made more clear that he was talking more about, more so talking about like social media, fan criticism, go for it. And mouthing off of mic saying, "I thought you said it." We're just having fun. That's all we're doing. We're having fun on Out of Pocket. I just keep thinking, guys, like, do you say this? Like, if not to, somebody privately, but do you say it to the public, putting Brian Flores on blast? And do you think this says more about Tua, or do you think it says more about Brian Flores, what happened here? Aaron?
No, I think it's understandable that he talked about it, and it's also been years since it happened. Like he didn't talk about it the second Flores was out of Miami. It's been years since it happened, and props to him for doing that. After the game against the Steelers that the Dolphins had in 2022, someone had asked Tua if he had spoken with Flores after the game, and his response was just no. So he had been incredibly tight-lipped about it up until this time, which is understandable because I feel like he was trying to, be respectful about it and not, air out any personal issues, but also he's talking about like a personal struggle that he went through and how he went from what looked like a bust. And Miami was rumored to be interested in trading for Deshaun Watson after taking Tua not that long ago. So that's another thing, you're hearing your team wants to trade for this other quarterback. Why would he not be good enough? So he's just talking about what he's went through to go from a potential bust to leading the league in passing yards this past season. So I think it's totally fine for him to talk about that, especially years removed.
Oh, I mean, that's a fair point. And especially like Tua's gotten so much hate for no reason. Like anytime I hear hate about Tua is like, oh, he's mid. Well, he led the league in passing yards last year. And then they talk about his injury history. Yeah, he had one season where he was getting hit in the head and put out on the field before he was even ready. Like that, those were the things against Tua that wasn't in Tua's control. Like Carsen, the hate on Tua has been unreal. But do you think he should be hating on Brian Flores publicly?
I'm with Aaron. I have no problem with it. I mean, it sounds like he went through a lot. To be a number one pick from Alabama, you just won a national championship, and to feel like you don't belong when you do, like that has to be hard, and it's because of this coach. And just like Aaron said, it was 2, 3, I don't remember how many years, but it was years after he had gone. So yeah, I have no problem with it. Good for Tua for speaking up and for sharing. I've never been the biggest Tua fan. I'm kind of lower than consensus on him, but I have no problem with what he said.
And Omar saying Flores isn't fit to be a head coach. Huh. I don't know. That's something right there. I'm going to pull up Brian Flores stats real quick as a head coach because, he was a long-time Patriots assistant from, 2008 to 2018. Then he was the Dolphins head coach for a couple years. So I don't love judging people based solely on what they did as a head coach, but he was 24-25 as a head coach from 2019 to 2021. And most of those losses came in 2019. Like, he had back-to-back win seasons his final 2 years in Miami. Aaron, would you trust Brian Flores as a head coach?
I definitely think he deserves another shot. Does he still have like some ongoing legal dispute with the league? I remember that was a thing. A Dolphins ownership was supposedly trying to bribe him to tank. That was something that's arguably why he got let go from Miami. But he was a really good coordinator, and he was a solid head coach, seemingly fixing to turn the team around. So I definitely think you'll get another shot, and he deserves another shot too.
Carsen, do you feel the same way?
I do. I just think it's a little too early for him. Like Aaron said, he was a great coordinator. That record wasn't super great, of course, but I think that and I don't even want to say I think he has what it takes, but I think that he's good enough to get another shot. I think he's got the record as a coordinator to show. And if he's not a head coach, then he'll go back to being a coordinator, and he'll be a damn good one. So, yeah, I'm good with giving him another shot.
Yeah, and we'll see how he does in Minnesota. Like, Minnesota, I mean, they're probably going to have it rough. J.J. McCarthy's out for the year. Jordan Addison's having his issues. Who knows how much time he'll miss, based on suspension or injury. But the Vikings did trade for Nashawn Wright from the Cowboys. They did a corner-for-corner swap between Nashawn Wright and Andrew Booth. That doesn't move the needle as much as the Minnesota Vikings signing Stephon Gilmore. Omar saying you want to see Flo put someone's son in mental hospital. Okay. Like maybe Brian Flores, and Tua didn't mesh well. Like, and maybe Brian Flores said comments that none of us are privy to. But that, Aaron, like, I'm all for, people getting a second chance. Plus, like, if Greg Williams, the guy who did Bounty Gate for the New Orleans Saints, could get a second chance in future years, like,
that's a whole nother topic. Good Lord.
Oh my goodness. Like,
that entire coaching staff should not have coached again in the league. They should have been banned forever. A 1-year suspension for Sean Payton's disgusting.
Ooh. And Carsen, you finally got your Carsonite showing up. You got your Carsonite showing up.
I feel like I got a couple more lurking.
Shout out Ramel. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Go ahead, Carsen.
Oh, I just said I think I got a couple more Carsonites. They're probably just lurking. They're not speaking out, but I think they're here.
Well, Ramel is here. Sorry, I had a Wi-Fi glitch, I believe. Shelby saying we're here. Max saying Major Payne says sensitive. Want NFL quarterback to be mentally strong. That is out of pocket. I mean, like, there are quarterbacks who get criticism. I feel like Dak Prescott has way too much criticism. Omar, bring up a good point. Flores set up Tua to fail from the jump. Like, as a head coach, you need to believe and support your quarterback above all else, because he's going to get that scrutiny from fans. He's going to get that scrutiny from around the league, especially a quarterback and coach. A quarterback and coach dynamic is so important. And yes, I pronounced it right. Let's go. It didn't take me as long as Victor Wembanyama or Tua Tagovailoa, which we've been talking about today. That is awesome. Let's go.
Say Tua's full name.
Tua Tagovailoa?
No, it's a lot more than that.
Oh,
like
no,
his
I don't even memorize all
name.
that. Chris saying Tua is the Kirk Cousins of today. Aaron, is your guy out of pocket?
I don't know. I I could kind of see where he's coming from in that he probably gets a little too much hate. He's like a solid quarterback, can be great at times, but is all around like just like above average, not like consistently exceptional. I don't know if I exactly agree. I'd have to think about that a little bit more, but I can kind of see where he's coming from with that.
Carson, what's your initial thoughts on?
I think Kirk is better. I think Kirk has always been better. Like I said, I'm low on Tua. I don't like he's very uber accurate, but the arm strength is just like the throwing strength is just not there with him. He's got one of the weakest arms in the league, and it just holds him back, holds this offense. Plus, you put him in like sub 60-degree weather, and like he's just sit him on the bench. Go put him on the warming benches. Like whoever the backup is, bring him in because Tua can't play in sub 60-degree weather. He's overrated to me. I have him. I think he's an average quarterback. I have him below Kirk. I have him below Jared Goff. I have him below Brock Purdy, Dak. I think he's an average quarterback. I have him probably around 16, I think, maybe 17. I think I would take Kyler Murray over Tua. So yeah, I just I don't think he's the Kirk Cousins. I think he's a little worse than that.
Chris bringing clarification since he's consistently solid or good, but isn't extremely elite. I don't know. Like, leading the league in passing yards is, a feat in of itself. Omar saying Flo hired a tie-in and running back coach for Tua's offensive coordinator. Does that sound like a coach wanting to see a young quarterback successful? I don't know. Mouthing off with Mike saying Brock Purdy over Tua is wild. I don't know why people hate Brock Purdy. Oh, yeah, because he's Mr. Irrelevant, even though he's proven he is relevant enough. People like Carsen hating on Tua. Omar saying...
I don't hate Tua. I like Tua. I do not hate Tua. I just don't think he's as good as people say. He's got the best offensive mind other than like Andy Reid around him, plus the three of the fastest weapons in the league. If he had a better arm, they would be Super Bowl champions. If he could throw the ball further than he could throw the ball, they would be Super Bowl champions. Like, really? He's okay. He is a solid, average quarterback, but he's not anything like super. Like, he is special accurate, but his arm strength just takes away from that.
Now, mouthing off with Mike does bring up a good point. I think that's a whole topic in of itself. Purdy having longevity on the Niners. I don't know if the 49ers want a longevity quarterback with the roster they've assembled, and obviously Brock Purdy is the cheaper option right now. Tua led the league in deep passes. Omar, like, I agree. Like, Tua had the most passing yards.
Tyreek Hill. He has Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle around him. That's easy. I would lead the league
like
in deep passes.
Slant routes to Tyreek Hill included in the deep passes that he takes for like 65, 70 yards? Or is it purely just based on like how deep Tua threw the ball? Because I feel like that's a really important factor when you're thinking about deep passes is did he actually throw it far?
I'm assuming that it's like run after catch counts because, I mean, if you watch him, like, just whenever, like, his deep, he's just not as accurate. He underthrows a lot of them. He has two really great receivers around him, but like he underthrows a lot of these along these deep passes. Like, he's got one of the worst arms in the league in terms of strength.
I mean, Omar's challenging us, guys. He's saying, look it up. Dude, I don't understand the Tua hate. Like, there's several quarterbacks I don't understand the hate for. Dak being one of them, Tua being one of them, Brock Purdy even. Like, I just that's what baffles me is like kind of tying in like, oh, who's around him. Yes, that has a factor to it. But we've seen some really talented teams not do squat because the quarterback was inept. Like, we have seen that before, Aaron.
Yeah. So what I'm seeing, the definition of a deep pass is 20 yards downfield. That, I feel like the definition of deep pass might need to change with, how I feel like the average arm strength has gone up in the league. Like 20 yards doesn't feel like a deep pass exactly. I don't know if that's just me, but I feel like something like 30, 35 sounds a little more deep. You hear 20 yards. To me, that doesn't sound like a deep pass. That is the current definition. So evidently Tua does lead the league in that, but I feel like the definition of a deep pass needs to change.
Yeah, Omar saying led the league in deep passes. He said look it up, and we looked it up, and
I just did.
he's right. Peyton Bray, they didn't have the strongest arm. Like that's a good point. Like everybody talked about like Tom Brady not having the biggest arm in the world, but as a 6th-round pick, 199th overall, he's still considered the GOAT. Not because he has like the strong arm and all this talent. Like, I would rather a quarterback be less talented, but at the same time put my team in a position to win and put my team in that best position. And I think Tua does that. Josh Allen has a big arm. How much Super Bowl does he have? Honestly, Josh Allen and Tua don't have a Super Bowl, either one of them. No offense, Omar, but I don't bring the Super Bowl conversation except for Tom Brady, because he has more Super Bowls than any team in NFL history. That's where I'm like, okay, doesn't really matter. But dude, Aaron, I'm a Tua guy. That's where I'm sitting on this conversation.
I like Tua as well. I don't think I'm like super crazy on him. I think he's really good. I have him hovering around like 8 to 11 range. I feel like I didn't really rank out my quarterbacks. I just wrote down a lot of names that I feel like are worth comparing them with. I had Mahomes, Lamar, Burrow, Herbert, Allen. I put Dak down. I hate to say it. Dak's pretty good. I'll talk crap about him, but he gets way too much hate because he's on the Cowboys, and the Cowboys are an easy team to hate for a lot of people. Gonna be fully honest there. But yeah. And then I also had like some guys I was a little more on the fence about. Stroud, he's a little young. Stroud and Love, they're inexperienced and young to really put him above Tua, but I feel like they're worth mentioning at the very least. Hurts is another one. Stafford and Rodgers are a couple vets that are still playing at a pretty high level. We don't know what we're going to see from Rodgers coming off an ACL tear, but Stafford is still playing some amazing football, and he's getting up there in age.
Yeah, and especially, I mean, you talk about, Tua having Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, what did he have in Green Bay? Devontae Adams. What will he have in New York this year? Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall. What does Stafford have? Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. Like, there's enough to be said. Mouthing off the mic saying big fan of CJ Stroud right now. I think with the coaching staff he has, the weapons and defense, that's a team you gotta watch for.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
if Patrick Mahomes did not exist, I would feel pretty comfortable putting the Houston Texans as AFC champions. If Mahomes didn't exist, I think they could. It's really competitive, but I don't see why Houston couldn't make it out of there other than Patrick Mahomes just being almost impossible to beat.
Now, we've seen this, and this is why I love doing live streams, is people can, kind of steer the conversation, what they want to hear and what they want to talk about. With Houston, I always worry about rookie quarterbacks coming back for their second year, that sophomore slump, right? The only thing that's making me feel like this won't happen to CJ Stroud, even though it's a potential, because teams get tape and they start watching, they start seeing your weaknesses, is the Houston Texans acquired Joe Mixon and Stephon Diggs, two veterans who are still playing at very, very high levels. Do you think that has anything to do with how CJ Stroud's going to perform this year?
1,000%. Adding a weapon like Diggs into a receiving room that is already pretty good, a lot better than I feel like a lot of people were expecting going into last season. Like, I did not expect that Houston offense to be that good. I like Nico Collins a lot. I didn't think he was going to be as good as he was, and also to your point about teams watching film and them looking at his weaknesses, he also has an amazing coaching staff that's going to help him work on those weaknesses and make them less apparent. So that's also an important factor. I think DeMeco Ryans a phenomenal head coach. I think he has a incredibly bright future as a head coach in this league, and great coordinators as well. Bobby Slowick, amazing. Stroud's in a great position going into year 2.
Yeah, and Mac bringing up Herbert being overrated, that is the exact example of, okay, Tua gets hate because he's not talented enough, and Justin Herbert gets praised because of his talent, even though Tua's had more success than Justin Herbert. Boom. Mouth on Mike says, agreed. I think this is the year people see that finally, Mac. So I got two people on my side with Justin Herbert being overrated. I don't think he's a top 5 guy.
And a top 5's it's pushing it. I don't really know. He is phenomenally talented, but there's a point where you have to look at the success you've had. And I am a little worried about that Chargers team heading into this year. I think Gus Edwards, is he their starting running back now? They have Gus Edwards and Blake Corum, I think, because Eckler fell off a cliff. He can't run the ball anymore. He's still great as a receiver, but he fell off last year. And their wide receiver 1 is, Lord, is it going to be Ladd McConkey?
Johnston?
Lord, I hope it's not him. That would be terrible. That would actually be terrible.
Omar saying Herbert should be ranked around 14. I agree. Like, that's
kind of absurd. That feels way too low.
I would say like the 10 to 14 range is about where I would put Justin Herbert personally. 10 to 14. I mean, because LA's just, basically copying what Baltimore did. They got Gus Edwards. They got J.K. Dobbins, the Ohio State running back who can't stay healthy worth a lick. It's not looking good for LA now that Keenan Allen, who is getting older, is, in Chicago now as the wide receiver number 3. Austin Eckler is the backup running back in Washington. Mike Williams, who knows what's up with Mike Williams now. Omar saying generous spot 14. Omar, you keep commenting, bro. We'll be back tomorrow. You keep commenting with these fire takes. I like it.
I don't know about fire with that.
I think we're doing good. Oh yeah. And mouth off Mike, Jane Daniels named the starter today too. I didn't even have that graphic. Aaron, this is almost obvious. It's like, why would you take a quarterback number 2 overall if you're not going to start him?
And his competition is Marcus Mariota. It felt like blatantly obvious that Jane Daniels was going to be the starter, and it was just a matter of time until they made it official. But this felt pretty cut and dry the second they drafted him number 2, honestly.
Yeah, and especially Dan Quinn, his first year as a Washington head coach, meaning to prove, finally fixed my light. And oh my goodness, that was bothering me. It'll happen sometimes. I don't know what's up with my laptop. It'll just go out of focus. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so annoying. Could probably name 15 better. Malon Mike saying Anthony Richardson coming back from injury is a storyline I'm intrigued by this season as well. Ooh, Aaron, you're a Panthers guy.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think has the better second year? Bryce Young, with a new head coach and a new offensive line, or Anthony Richardson coming off of that injury?
I'm inclined to say Anthony Richardson, just because I feel like what he's coming into is like we know what to expect. We saw how he looked. He looked solid. He looked good with what he had, and there's just too much unknown with Carolina to definitively state that Bryce Young will have a better second year. That would require too much optimism for me to have in this team, and I just can't bring myself to be overly optimistic. And I feel like saying that Bryce Young would definitively have a better year too than Anthony Richardson is just a little too much of a push for me.
I'm the exact opposite. Like, it is so hard, especially when Anthony Richardson is a running dual threat quarterback coming off of that injury. Like, does he play the same? With Bryce Young, he gets Dave Canales, who, if Dave Canales can fix Geno Smith, who was doing nothing, and if he can fix Baker Mayfield, who was doing next to nothing, I think he can fix a number 1 overall pick. The Panthers struggled at offensive line last year and went out and got 2 serviceable guards, and Lewis and Robert Hunt. I feel like Carolina has put Bryce Young in a better position. And with Indianapolis, like, Michael Pittman's still there. Jonathan Taylor, who knows what kind of year Jonathan Taylor has. Too many gaps for Carolina. Hopefully a new coaching dynamic can help them bridge the gap. I really do. I think Dave Canales is the difference maker, Aaron.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am definitely excited to see what happens this season, but I'm still just I'm going to be worried about the offensive line until I see what they can actually do, because I've said this multiple times on the show. Ikem Ekwonu has been horrendous, absolutely horrendous for a player that was supposed to be a franchise left tackle. He needs to show it this year or he's gone. And also his NC State teammate, Chandler Zavala, he's a backup guard. He was horrendous last year when he played. So having someone who was that bad last year, that close to being a starter, is pretty concerning for me.
Yeah, you gotta protect Bryce Young. You gotta, have a good offensive line, or else you don't have a running game that, a young quarterback can help rely on. Mac bringing up what Dak do with Kellen Moore, and what did Herbert do, saying he likes Herbert but overrated. Totally agree. Like, it is. I'm just ready for, and I love Isaac from the Fun Football podcast. He will definitely be back on Out of Pocket when his schedule clears up. But he was bringing up Herbert. And I'm like, dude, why do you like Herbert so much when you're, talking down about Dak about playoff success, and Herbert hasn't done much else? Like, yeah, all the talent in the world, but hasn't put all the pieces together. So that's where I'm at with that quarterback debate. I don't know if Carsen is hopping back on here, but
I feel like he's gone at this point. It's been a minute.
He probably got upset. We started calling him out for his out of pocket takes. But if you guys do love Carsen, you Carsenites running wild in the YouTube chat today, I appreciate you. I know Carsen appreciates all the support and love. I want to say this, and I can say this while Carsen's not here, right? Two things I liked about the panel today. I went up to App State, my alma mater, a couple years after graduating, just to say I was, kind of promoting the place I'd, worked for previously. But I went to my professor's office, and I just wanted to tell the professor thank you, because he made an impact on me when everything shut down, COVID happened. He was a good mental support system. And, I went to say thank you, and he's like, "You want to talk to my class too?" And I'm like, I don't know. Like, sure, I guess. And I'm like, I'm not sure what I have to say. And he's like, "You have a story." And so I sit out in the lobby, just sitting, minding my own business. And this guy, with a beard, comes and sits down. You're seeing that beard on the screen right now if you're watching on the Boom Broadcasting YouTube channel for Out of Pocket. And me and him just start talking about sports. And it's like, "Hey, nice to see you, man. Hope to see you soon." And then I'll walk into his class. And I start, sharing my story and sharing my experience with, students that I was in their shoes just a couple of years prior. And I was like, hey guys, if any of you want to, hop on, I got this sports show. We, talk football, basketball, baseball, wrestling, all the sports, the fun sports at least. And there were two people who took me up on that. One, Carsen stood up right there at the end, shook my hand, said, I want to be on, give me a chance. I'm like, okay. And then later on, I exchanged, contact info with this Aaron fellow. And I get a text later that night when I'm heading home. He's like, hey, I'd love to, be on and help you out any way I can. And I'm like, let me just give these guys a chance, see what happens. And then I don't know, man, I guess it's been a year now. It's been a year since we did this, since we started it. And I'm just really, really, really grateful for both of these guys being just fantastic people, fantastic human beings. I know we went 20 minutes over, but the huge reason for that is I just enjoy hanging out with these guys. When we were all in Boone and, huddled around the App State area, going out for dinner, hanging out, maybe doing some karaoke, maybe spend an hour with me at Waffle House the other day. Like, I enjoy these guys' company, but I enjoy their friendship, and I'm super excited. Aaron's getting settled into his new place. He's going to start his Schneider's Cafe very soon. I'm going to learn how to cook based off of his show, so there's much pressure on him for that. And Carsen gets to debut his Green Bay Packers podcast this Wednesday at 6 p.m. for Out of Pocket. So, I mean, you're watching right now. We're at 6:22. Like, you could be in 48 hours from now watching, supporting Carsen, getting to talk about his favorite NFL team and getting to live out a passion of his. So it's really awesome, Boom Broadcasting, getting to do this. I'm glad that we're able to. The whole team's come together for that giveaway we did a couple weeks ago over the summer to show appreciation. We'll do more giveaways. That's why you should stay subscribed, because if you're on that list, then that enters you into all our future giveaways moving forward. And you get to show love and support to these guys who have done above and beyond for me. A fun crew indeed. Thank you, Elizabeth. A fun crew. And Out of Pocket will be back tomorrow, Tuesday, 5:30 p.m. We got a returning guest. Say his name and he appears. He might be commenting a little in the chat today. Say his name and he appears. He might be popping on for a return to Top Rope Tuesday. Mouth Alpha Mike saying subscribe. I got an idea for the next giveaway, so don't miss it. I'm kind of curious about this giveaway. Maybe we should talk about it. I know where we can talk about it. On the Nightcap tonight, because I'll be back on the Nightcap tonight, immediately following Monday Night Raw, to talk about it. It'll be a super fun time. I missed it last week when I was in Carolina Beach, hanging out with my best friends, hanging out with Sean Lucas. Amar says he'll be back, and you should be back too. But for Michael Davis, this has been Out of Pocket. We can't wait to give you the rest of the content for week number 8 of Boom Broadcasting. Thank you so much to Carsen for hopping on. Thank you so much for Aaron. The Monday nights mics will be back tonight, and Out of Pocket will be back tomorrow, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, exclusive to the Boom Broadcasting YouTube channel. We'll see you guys next time.